The dark secrets billionaires don't want you to know. What if I told you the world's richest people aren't just lucky? They're playing an entirely different game. A game with rules that you and I aren't allowed to play. While most people grind for a paycheck, billionaires have built a hidden system. A system designed to protect their wealth, control economies, and make sure they always stay on top. But here's the real question. How deep does this rabbit hole go? Because once you see what's really happening behind the scenes, there's no going back. We unearth the hidden truths they don't want you to know. From the dark secrets of the ultra-rich to the riddles that govern our world, we delve deep, revealing the unseen stories that lie under the surface. If you're ready to challenge what you think you know and see the world from a different perspective, click the subscribe button. Because once you realize the truth, there is no turning back. Why the rich stay rich. They say, work hard and you'll succeed. But if that were true, wouldn't the most hardworking people in society be the wealthiest? Instead, we witness millionaires becoming wealthier as millions struggle to get by. The majority of billionaires are not self-made. Rather, they are the product of the system. They use a framework designed to safeguard and expand their money, which the common individual will never have access to. Looking closely at the so-called self-made billionaires reveals a different story. Many began with family wealth, privileged networks, and insider knowledge. They had the correct last names, went to the right schools, and were mentored by the right individuals. Some even had their first firms funded by family money, while others leveraged political connections to avoid the challenges that ordinary entrepreneurs encounter. Yes, some of them work hard, but the game was already rigged in their advantage from the beginning. Meanwhile, the rest of society is indoctrinated to pursue the millionaire dream, working tirelessly in the hopes of breaking through. But what about the billionaires? They don't just climb the ladder, they purchase the entire system to assure their position at the top. The question is, if hard labor alone creates money, why does the wealth disparity continue to widen? The solution is simple. The wealthy aren't just playing the game, they own it. How billionaires avoid taxes, the hidden system. How is it possible that a typical worker working 2 jobs pays more in taxes than a multi-billion-dollar corporation? The solution rests in a properly structured system that prevents the wealthiest from giving their fair share. Billionaires have mastered the art of tax avoidance using legal loopholes, offshore accounts, and corporate tax havens to safeguard their billions. They effectively hide trillions of dollars from governments by using shell firms in nations with little to no tax regulations. Take Amazon as an example. In 2018, the corporation recorded a profit of $11.2 billion while paying no federal income tax. Meanwhile, a regular worker receiving a small salary may owe 20%, 30%, or even more in taxes. The truth is, the system was never intended to benefit the working class. And here's where it becomes even worse. Governments condone it. Why? Billionaires fund political campaigns, influence policies, and guarantee that laws benefit them. They don't merely dodge paying taxes, they actively influence laws to protect their money and enhance their power. The taxation system is not broken. It was built this manner, and those who gain from it will do everything possible to preserve it that way. The control over media and public opinion. Have you ever wondered why unfavorable tales regarding millionaires don't make headlines? That's not a coincidence. It's intentional. The ultra-rich do not just amass cash, they also amass power, particularly in the media. They own news networks, periodicals, and even the social media platforms used for public conversation. With this level of control, they don't merely report the news, they modify it to suit their own needs. They carefully manage their public image, portraying themselves as visionaries, philanthropists, and self-made geniuses. They fund positive documentaries, sponsor important events, and ensure that the media focuses on their accomplishments while conveniently ignoring their controversies. But behind this meticulously polished image is a much harsher reality, one based on worker exploitation, aggressive monopolies, tax loopholes, and political manipulation. What happens when someone tries to reveal the truth? They are silenced, sued, or totally discredited. Whistleblowers lose their jobs, journalists face litigation, and dissenting voices vanish from mainstream media. Because when you own the media, you don't have to win the argument, simply eliminate it. That is the true power of the ultra-rich. Not only do they control riches, but also what the rest of the world knows. The billionaire monopoly game. Have you ever felt as if your options were an illusion? It's because they are. The world's main industries, tech, retail, and finance, are no longer fiercely competitive. They are monopolies run by a small group of billionaires who control what we buy, how we communicate, and even how we handle our finances. Tech, a playground for Silicon Valley's elite. Retail, dominated by corporate giants, crushing small companies before they can even develop. Finance, a system structured to benefit the wealthy while the average individual drowns in debt. They do not only dominate industries, they own them. What if a fresh player dared to challenge their empire? They don't fight fairly. They buy them out, shut them down. Alternatively, you can completely wipe them. This is not capitalism anymore. It's about control. And the more power they accumulate, the fewer options we have. The question is, how long can this carry on? The billionaire charity scam. When billionaires donate to charity, they are frequently hailed as wonderful philanthropists, but the truth is far more insidious. Many of these so-called charity institutions function as tax havens, allowing the ultra-rich to hide their wealth while appearing good. These billionaires don't just throw money away, they establish charities in their own names, support their own programs, and use gifts to influence policies that eventually benefit them. Instead of promoting true systemic change, they ensure that their authority is maintained. While the public perceives magnificent displays of charity, these donations are used to avoid taxes, build political ties, and preserve influence over companies and governments. True generosity would question the same mechanisms that put them at the top, but this is something they will never tolerate. Because for billionaires, giving isn't about improving the world, it's about ensuring they never lose power. The secret billionaire exit plan. The reality is more unpleasant than most people realize. Many billionaires are not merely acquiring fortune, they are also planning an escape. Instead than investing in solutions to global concerns, they are secretly purchasing private islands, subterranean shelters, and even sponsoring space colonies. Why? Because they see no future in improving the system, only in quitting it. While the typical person faces growing costs, environmental calamities, and political instability, the ultra-rich are bracing for the worst-case scenario. Their luxurious doomsday bunkers include private protection, years of food supply, and even luxury facilities. While the average person faces rising costs, environmental disasters, and political uncertainty, the ultra-rich prepare for the worst-case scenario. Their opulent doomsday bunkers feature private security, years of food supplies, and even luxury amenities. The shocking truth: what can we do? Now that you know the truth, it's impossible to unsee it. The system isn't broken. It was designed this way. A game where the wealthy always win and everyone else is left struggling just to survive. But here's what billionaires don't want you to realize. They aren't afraid of losing money. They have more than they could ever spend. What truly terrifies them is exposure. They fear people waking up, questioning the system, and refusing to play by their rules. They fear the moment when people stop idolizing them, stop falling for their carefully crafted narratives, and start demanding real change. Because when the illusion shatters, so does their power. Think about it. Entire industries, economies, and even governments are shaped to keep this system intact. But what happens when people stop obeying, stop believing, and start fighting back? That's when real power shifts. Now that you know their secrets, the real question is, will you ignore the truth and go back to the illusion? Or will you use this knowledge to challenge the system, expose the corruption, and demand a world where wealth no longer controls everything? The choice is yours. The world's richest people have created an illusion, a system designed to keep them in power while everyone else struggles to get by. They control industries, influence governments, and manipulate public perception, ensuring they always win while the rest are left fighting over the leftovers. The game isn't fair, and it was never meant to be. But now you see the truth. You understand the hidden strategies, the loopholes, and the untouchable wealth that keeps them on top. The real question is, now that you know, what will you do? Will you accept it, or will you challenge the system?